Welcome to the Art Lady channel. This week my classes are painting rocks, and I came across this very unusual kind of triangular rock. It's kind of a 3D thing. It almost looks like a piece of pie. And then the more I looked at it, I thought that would make a cool dinosaur head. Because I'm trying to think of what could I turn this into for an example for my kids. And I'm going to be doing a dinosaur, I think. And I'm going to base it off of some real dinosaurs, but then of course as an artist you could make up your own. So it's going to kind of look like a T-Rex head, but in that a side view of it here with an open mouth. So the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to sketch out my cool T-Rex. And I want to put the eye, I know, about right here. And I want it to be about a 1/2 inch, and then on the other side I'm going to do another 1/2 inch eye right there. Now I'm going to look at it, make sure that they're pretty much the same on both sides there. And then I'm going to go ahead and do, now I'm exaggerating these, I'm going to go ahead and do the curve, exaggerating it so I can get a lot of detail in that eyeball. And then maybe do some rounded in here. So curve it. So I'm just sketching out on the rock lightly. I'm using a Sharpie so that when I add my acrylic paint to this, it's not going to blend into the paint and bleed. If I used a water-based marker, that's what it would do, is bleed in. So if I have complicated designs like this, I have my students do it with Sharpie. And then I want 2 little nostrils right in here. And then I want a big wide mouth that's opened with lots of teeth. So I'm going to start off with the horizontal side view of this. I kind of want it to dip down a little here. And then I'm going to go across. And then I'm going to bring it down. The jaw kind of on dinosaurs goes downward, diagonal, underneath this eye. And then it continues in this area. And then I'm going to come across. And I want the mouth to be opened. And I'm going to give a crack here. And then, of course, this is where all the teeth are going, right in here. And I'm going to alternate them. I'm going to go top, bottom, top, bottom. That way I fit in some nice big teeth. So as I draw them, I go top, bottom, so they fit together nicely. And then I'm going to come around this side. Now it's 3-dimensional, so actually this curve should be like this. Straight across. And then I'm going to do the same on this side. I'm going to go horizontal, diagonal, and then my line coming around. Horizontal and connecting. Let's check out what I did here. Yeah. And then of course and I'm curving these teeth back. So curve down, back. This is kind of a fat one. This marker, I would have liked a thinner one. Sometimes after you use the Sharpies. Now there's the bottom teeth. Now I'm going to do my top. Sometimes after you use the Sharpies for a while, the points dull up a little bit. All right, so I have it all sketched out. There, the dinosaur. And I can make adjustments as I paint it. And then I'm going to be putting in lots of textures as well with my paint to make it look like a real dinosaur skull or a dinosaur head. All right, so I'm going to start off by giving it a base coat of paint. And I kind of want this to be light and bright, so I'm going to use some light green. And I've mixed up some acrylic, student-grade acrylic paints. And I've put in, you can see how I have some yellow, and then I use the base coat green, and I made this yellow-green color. But I like it when I can see both colors, yellow and green, in it. That way I get some tonal effects as I'm even putting down my background color. Now, when I first started out, what I do is I wash this rock first. I just rinse it real quick. I mean, I don't scrub it or anything. I just rinse off the dust, because when we purchase these, we purchase them in a bag, and they're all bumping each other, and they cause a little bit of dust, and I didn't want the dust to mix in with the paint here and prevent the paint from chipping off afterwards. So I lightly rinsed it off, and then I just dried it with a paper towel. And actually I did these yesterday, so they've dried for a day. But I've also painted them with the kids at school when we rinsed them, let them dry for, just a few minutes. Just so they're not saturated. You dry them with a towel, and it still works. So I'm giving it a light base coat. And then after I paint this all in, after I paint this all in green, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just go right over these, but I'm going to leave it very thin. I can still see my guidelines. That's where the Sharpie's nice. I can still see them. So this is my base coat, and then I'll put in my textures as soon as I finish my base coat. And I'm just going to do this very quickly. Turn it to this side. When I go around anything, I'm real careful. Go slow. And actually, it's really no big deal if you get on top of this stuff. The only thing I want to be real careful about is those teeth, because I don't know if I'm going to paint them or not. I may just leave them the natural rock. And like I said, these were purchased rocks in a bag, and they're river rock, because they have nice flat areas. This was just the round, kind of an odd shape, so I decided to make it an example, because it's more difficult for the kids to do odd shapes like this. And I thought this might be a fun example if we had you can even do this shape with a total oval rock even. This would work. This just happened to be this funny triangular shape. And so I'm giving it all my base coat. I'm going to kind of just carefully tip it this way. It dries pretty quick because I'm doing a thin coat, and of course the rock is pretty porous. Now in Florida, we're in Florida, and our kids kind of have a disadvantage when we do our rocks, because we can't just go out and find them unless you use garden rocks or purchased rocks from gardens, because they're not natural to Florida, these kind of river rocks. We just have coquina rock, and if you're going to go find it in nature, you've got to dig down really, really, really deep, to hit that coquina bed. Otherwise, you're not going to find rock. If you go to the beach, you might find some, but not often. Sometimes I find the coquina at the beach, that's about it. But stuff like this, you won't find in Florida, in nature. So you've got to buy these river rocks. And I know from when I grew up in New Hampshire, we lived on a huge rock, a big slab of granite. And so when I came to Florida, it was kind of weird that you have to go buy rocks. But anyways, we did. So these were purchased river rock. So there's my base coat. And if you look, you can see a little bit of two-tone value. And that's because I left, these colors in my dish, which I kind of like. Because when that's a nice base coat, because when I add my texture to this, you get different variations, which is kind of cool. I'm just going to smooth this out, and I'm going to let this rock dry a little bit before I start in on anything else, because as I'm touching it and turning it, it is coming off a little bit. So we will let that dry, and then I will come back to my texturing and design on top. I'm now going to start in on some of this color that's in between the teeth, and I'm using some pink and red values in here. And I'm just taking a very skinny little brush, and I am painting in between the teeth with this pinkish color. I'm going to dip in a red a little bit. Pinkish red. For his gums and his mouth. And aesthetically, it gives it a little bit of a, you know, fun pink color, more interesting, instead of just all the values of greens. And I'm going to do some grays too, greens and gray dots and textures. I want this to be pretty detailed as far as the skin scales and texture go. So I'm going to be layering that. So my base coat, I only need one thin coat down. It's good enough. Because like I said, I'm going to do a lot of patterning with dots and texture. Since we had these rocks, I thought it would be fun to make them really detailed. And then when people find them, we hide them. I don't know if it's popular everywhere, but in our town we hide them. So when you hide them and somebody finds it, they're going to find a really cool detailed rock. There. And so hopefully some little kids will find this and get real excited because it's a dinosaur. Okay, so now I've done the light base coat here. And I may have to spiff up those teeth a little bit. But there, we got some. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put some color in on the eye. I'm going to give, let's see if I can find any bright color. Well, I'll just use this blue. And I'm going to paint this in here. And then I'll get the pupil and details in a minute. This is actually the iris. So I'm doing my round circle for the iris, painting that in smooth. And then I'm going to be putting some lids around this. I'm going to start off with a darker green. And so I've taken my green color and added a little bit of blue to it. So I have this kind of gray-green lid. And it gives a good shadow to the eyeball. Kind of pointing it on the edges here. Like I said, I exaggerated this eyeball. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. So it was blue mixed in with the green. And I like working up the eyes, one on each side. Instead of working the whole line going to the other side, that way it's similar. Or as similar as I can get it. And then I'm going to line this, just to add more detail, with some black. And I'm going to twist my black. And I want it to be, their lids are pretty wrinkly, so I'm going to line this at the top to give a shadow look. A lot of scaly, wrinkly skin. And then I'm going to put in my pupil area. I'm going to also give a little bit of a line of black underneath here too. And I'm going to stick in my pupil. Which is a circular. So I'm lining here, lining here, adding the pupil. So I curve, almost circular, curve, then I'm filling it in with the black. And I want to put some underline, underline. So I'm trying to bring up some of the scaly cracks in the dinosaur that go around. And then I'm going to put a little crack in here too, coming down with the black. And then I'm going to extend the line here for the jaw. Same on this side. Oh, I messed it up. Extend my jaw. And then I'm putting in a little cracks under here. Now, I'm not going to worry about that spot on top because I'm going to add tons of little textures. And I do want to do my little nostrils here black. Right in here. And I'm going to let this black dry because it's easy to mess it up as you're trying to hold this. Oops, but I'm trying to match it. So I'm going to let it dry and then come back. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of give some interesting texture. And I do want to put some pattern on him. And so I'm using this, oops, kind of green color mixed with a little bit of that blue. And it's kind of an olivey green. And I'm going to paint just some, and I'm kind of dabbing it, almost triangular kind of stripes, like a zebra stripe or a tigery stripe. So I want it to be kind of thin, and then I'm kind of giving it, just to give him some kind of pattern. And I'm just doing a pretty dry brush into this paint, just to give it a little bit of texture and pattern, just so the rock is not all boring plain one green. And this is adding details, but I'm kind of dabbing it. I don't want it to be a specifically line drawn. And then I'm going to put some little bit of this color, greenish color, around the eyes, and I'm kind of just dabbing it. And then I'll go really small here. Really small dots with this neat green color. I want to place, since I'm working the whole thing up, I'm going to station my finger here and station my finger on this side so that I'm not touching everywhere on my rock. And I'm just dabbing this color for some texture around the eye here. Now, anytime you don't like something, go back to your original color, and right here I think I want to tone this down a little, so I'm coming back in with my original color. It was too stark, too much of a contrast. So by touching my original color, I can give this cool texture. And then it tones it down, gives it more scaly look. I like that. So I'll do the same on this side. But I do like these stripes that I did. Those came out really cool. I'm going to give some more texture around the stripes too. So I've mixed some of that gray-green color, olive green color, and then in with the original color. And I'm going to do just dabs. So this is like scales or texture. Original color, let me show you over here. Original color and then the gray-green color. So I'm double loading my brush here and giving some texture with that. I want more of that original color. And on top, I'm coming back with my original color. So it's giving him a scaly texture. And then I'm going to come back with some, so I'm kind of doing it in rows, like it would be a pattern, but random, kind of random rows. So it's not look so perfect. If it's too perfect, it looks artificial. And that gives him some good scaly texture here. And I'm going to bring it darker near the upper gum here, right in here. A layer of darker, real small. And then I'm going to bring back some of this lighter in between. So you're dabbing these textures on. So if I could flip it this way. Okay. And then I'm going to darken up the bottom. I'm going to switch to a smaller brush. I'm going to darken up the bottom of these stripes here. With some little dabs of texture. And again, that's that darker green. Just to give some two-tone in those stripes, or scaly feeling. This is a reptile. Okay, he's not looking that bad now. There. And I want to do the same for underneath here. Right in here, give him some texture. And then blend the texture in. There. Now, I'm just going to put a few little highlight colors on. Maybe with some lighter yellow. Let's see, maybe in this area over here, put a little bits of a pattern. And then maybe a pattern on the top here. Just a neat row of lines. And on this side too. And maybe around the nostril, a little bit of brighter color to accentuate the nostril. And then I can put a little highlight. See if I have any white in my dish. If I put a little highlight in the eye and one on this side, and maybe if I brighten up my teeth. Oh, I do have some white out. Great. If I brighten up my teeth, I'll be done. Real close and careful. And I like the way he's turning out. I think he's fun. Let's get this tooth. That's what's good about acrylic, is once it's dry, it's so easy to add another color right on top of. It's opaque enough where it hides the other color. And I don't mind some of this marker showing, actually. I kind of like it. It helps define it. Some of these areas. I may come back with another line, I think, of the green. Some dark green on top of that gum. Let's get that done. Just to bring out the gum of the... Let's see if I have a... I'm going to take some blue and mix it right in here. I'm going to spin my brush so I get a really skinny line here. I may even need a little black. Let's get a little black in there and see what happens. Because the blue didn't darken this up enough. These acrylics are student grade, so they are not, yeah, that helps. Small amount of black in with that green gives a little bit of a shadow to this area, tones it down, but it takes away the real black of that line. Same thing in here, it's going to give more definition. Just more detail. And I'll put some dots on the border here. And I think I like them. And what I'm going to do is give them a coat of matte medium to make them a little bit shiny and to protect this paint. Let me fix this line up in here. I may fix some of these teeth, they're a little crooked. If I don't get pointy teeth here. If the paint gets kind of dry, it leaves some rough lines. And there he is. I like him. So I'll let him dry. Oh, I saw this thing. I do want some right in here, inside this nostril area. I've just mixed some of the, use that black with green. I want some two-tone on that nostril. This makes a shadow area. Forgot about that. There. It gives a shadowy area in that nostril. But I like them. I think it's coming out cool. And I'll show you the back. Actually, I think I'm going to add, that's where artists assess. It definitely needs something else up in here. Because when I'm looking at this rock from the top, it's a little boring. So I'm adding some more of my striped texture here. top of his head. And let's have another one here. Just to make it more interesting. Because if it's too much of the same, it's kind of boring. And how about one more small one? There. Now I want to bring back in my line here. I like adding this blue-green. Now I'm coming back with some of my original color. Blending in this stripe a little bit more. That one was too thick. Cleaning up my edges of this stripe. I want this smaller. And there we have, let's see if I can show you the overall view. Yeah, I really like that better. It makes it more interesting now on all sides.
We couldn't see you paint that downstairs.
And there I have my dinosaur rock. And here's the completed rock, and I'm really happy with the way he turned out. And like I said, I'm going to coat him with some waterproof spray acrylic, and then he can be put outside. Rust-Oleum Clear is a good, and it will enhance these colors too, is a good spray that's good for outside. Make sure it says outside use. And that'll make it last a little bit longer. Of course, this acrylic isn't going to last forever on this rock, but it does give it more durability for being outside. And I hope you enjoyed painting a dinosaur on an egg. And if you'd like, if you haven't already done so, go ahead and hit subscribe and hit a like or leave a comment. Let me know how your dinosaur egg or dinosaur rock came